Welcome to Nipissing University. It's a very special day for us, and you are a recently minted grad of Nipissing University. So we're very pleased. You know, you have quite a reputation for your government relations work, but you have long been an advocate for mental health, and I wonder if you could tell us about that work and how you got started in that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the beginning to that story is fitting for where I am today, because it was the result of my brother, Peter, who, as a undergraduate, first-year student at University of Western, had his first mental health episode. And at a time in the late 80s where what we have come to expect now about the support and some of the lack of stigma that has removed the barriers to care wasn't there at all. So Peter, in his journey to get back to his studies, couldn't, for some of the reasons that we now well understand. If you link how we began the conversation with my government relations activism or profession at the time, I thought, who better than a loved one to advocate for change? And so I became active at the grassroots level in Ottawa and began helping local community organizations who were engaging in government for a variety of different reasons. But it certainly begins there, as it often does with families with a loved one who's in crisis and they don't know where to go. Mm-hmm. And in 1987, that was an even more daunting hurdle to cross for our family.
So 1987 is some time ago. In the middle of all this work on the ground, how has the response been towards this work? Has anything changed?
Well, you know what, I'm delighted to say that the conversations that we now have more matter-of-factly has changed. There was what was the case with cancer of 40 years ago, where people would whisper the word for fear it would bring on the demons that would make the stigma even greater. We now talk about mental illness, and universities have done a particularly good job because of how the ever-changing biochemistry of the brain at that age in your life leads to the onset of mental health issues if you're predisposed. And the stresses of everyday life in the 21st century certainly exacerbate that. So I'm delighted that corporate Canada and the workplace, university institutions, both at the college and university level, are now providing the comfort or the cultural safety, to use an Indigenous term, that people can have these conversations to get help, and provided the resources to backstop. Because one of the concerns I have is that because we're now talking about it and able to talk about it as often as we do and as effusively as we do, the healthcare system can't now take on the volume of care. And so wait times and not getting care as soon as you will need it, and sometimes in crisis it's right now, is the piece that needs to be fixed. And that's a bigger agenda, but no less daunting a task right now.
Well, I know that you don't do it for the thanks from others, but on behalf of our university, thank you for putting yourself out there right into the middle of this important issue, because it affects all of us in some way or another: family, friends, colleagues, and society in general. So thank you for that work.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Kevin, in your journey as president, the tone from the top is everything. And so the fact that you have embraced it and will continue in advancing your strategic agenda here at the university, I'll be watching you too, by the way.
And I believe that, we have a very complex workplace, we have a complex learning environment, and we are very much in tune with how our faculty and staff members are feeling, and the pandemic has really put us in a position to be better listeners, to certainly be more compassionate and empathetic, and to gain more knowledge. So I think we're further ahead with that, and particularly with a very vulnerable student population. So along those lines, it's time to pause for reflection, and also people are looking for us to take action.
And any of the metrics that used to determine the level of wellness among any population, but certainly the student body, all skyrocketed as a result of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And there is this notion of the echo pandemic, which is now that we're through the health, the immediate health viral aspects of it, what are the mental health consequences for what we've all of us endured, not just students, but all of us. And that will be lots of time, effort, and leadership required to help address that.
Well, you addressed a big audience today, and I think they were inspired by the work that you've done, as are we. and you addressed the audience and gave them some advice. So let me turn it back to you and say, what's the best piece of advice that you've been given in your life that has shaped the way that you think about things or you behave or what you do, and let's share that with people.
Yeah, and that was not immediately obvious to me when I graduated some 33 years ago. You leave an institution like Nipissing or Western in my case, hell-bent for success. You think that you're invincible, at least we hope you are after putting in the rigorous academic journey you've been on. And you forget that the vulnerable in Canada are everywhere. And you don't consider yourself to be that in that segment of the population. You have the privilege to come to university and et cetera. But the message that I hope I left with graduates this morning is this: find a way to give back to the community. In a small way in the beginning, find some bigger way later, because it really is the difference between you understanding how great a country we have, first of all, but also how necessary it is for you to use your talents as among the most privileged in the country to give back to those that are more vulnerable. And that will pay dividends for you emotionally, and it will be the well-being of the citizens of the country who will benefit ideally. And so if that notion is instilled in those who are in the room today, I would hope that would be one bit of advice they could take and practically apply to their lives. And the other is that one of the three beliefs I cited in my remarks, it's the gratitude that we need to remember that we've won the birth lottery in Canada. We're born in the greatest country in the world, and we need to be grateful for that. And that gratitude should take the form of some of what I mentioned just a moment ago. And we sometimes forget that. I sometimes need to remind myself of that. So hearing myself share those words this morning is also reaffirming for what we all need to do, is be grateful for the privilege that we do enjoy here in Canada.
Well, I think that both of those important points resonated with our graduates and all of the people in attendance today, so I thank you for that. And now I'm going to be selfish and I'm going to say, to me, presenting an honorary doc on someone's life achievements and having them associated with our fine university is very important to us. And so I really value you receiving the honorary doctorate with the university. And I wonder, what does it mean to a recipient to receive an honorary doctorate?
Yeah, I said it in my remarks, there's a joyfulness that comes from being recognized, not for the sake of the selfishness that comes from that, but given the university acknowledgement of my work in the mental health field, to say that we're now celebrating achievements of this kind in the 21st century, it brings great joy. But it also reminds me of all of the shoulders upon which I've stood to get to this point. There are pioneers in the mental health discussion that have toiled away without thanks for decades. And to be able to receive on their behalf, and sometimes that term is used somewhat cavalierly, but I do feel that this is an acknowledgement of a collective work on behalf of many folks. And to have the honor of the Nipissing University's doctoral degree is really a sense of accomplishment, but also a sense of purpose that more work needs not to be done, right? And so I will use this as my reminder that the pedal, my foot needs to continue to be placed on the pedal, and to do it in the company of such fine leaders like the Nipissing University community is a real privilege to be here at all. So thank you.
You've been so generous with your time on the issue of mental health through and through for so many years. It's 25 years now. And we are
hair is proof. Right?
We're so grateful for you giving us your time and to speak to our students and to our faculty and staff today. We really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
And you.
Thank you.
Thank you.